tower. I found an injured white fox in the middle of a massive blizzard. In the blink of an eye, she shapeshifted into a gorgeous woman who was dead set on repaying her debt of gratitude. Blinking those big, innocent eyes, she told me that as a reward for saving her life, this little fox was willing to give herself to me in marriage. I flatly refused, of course, rattling off modern civic values and scientific rationality. After all, shapeshifting into fox spirits just isn't a thing in this day and age. Later that night, I woke up completely wrapped in a giant fluffy tail, only to find her softly licking the palm of my hand. It was only then that I finally understood the truth. A fox's way of repaying a favor means absolute, terrifying possession from your body right down to your soul. I stared out the apartment window at the howling blizzard, which was violent enough to completely shred the glow from the street lamps outside. For the millionth time, I regretted what I did, exactly 10 minutes ago, opening that damn food delivery app. Right now, the regret was eating me alive. I regretted it so incredibly much that I just wanted to hurl my phone straight down from the 16th floor, letting it smash into the concrete along with the punishment for my stupid impulsiveness, shattering into a million pieces. Damn it all. In this god-forsaken weather, the delivery drivers would literally have to be driving bobsleds. I grumbled quietly to myself and sniffled. The heat in the apartment was blasting at full volume, but that slight, freezing chill slipping through the window cracks still made me violently shiver. My empty stomach let out another loud, pathetic growl. Fine, whatever. There was still half a bag of frozen dumplings left in the fridge. I figured I'd just boil them up to appease my starving stomach. Sliding into my slippers, I padded over to the front door and reached for the light switch. The voice-activated light out in the hallway instantly flickered to life. The glow was incredibly dim and cast an eerie yellowish tint, but the floor right outside my front door wasn't just the bare, freezing concrete I was expecting to see. Facing my neighbor's security door, which was totally plastered with junk flyers, a weird white mass was curled up right there on the ground. It was a massive, fluffy ball of fur. My heart completely skipped a beat, and I instinctively yanked my foot backward. What the hell is that thing? Did someone seriously lose their dog out here? Hold on a second. Just looking at its massive size, is it a Samoyed? Maybe a giant Alaskan Malamute? In a totally rundown neighborhood like ours, practically nobody keeps large dogs like that. Besides, this giant thing isn't moving an inch. Is it actually dead? Did the poor thing freeze to death right at my doorstep on a brutal snowy night like this? Hesitating for a moment, I took half a step forward and squinted to get a much closer look. Its pristine white fur was almost blinding, even under the super dim hallway light, radiating this totally unreal, glowing sense of purity. It honestly didn't look like a dog or a cat at all. It looked way more like one of those ridiculously expensive, high-end fur coats I'd only ever seen on television. It was curled up incredibly tight, looking exactly like a giant snowball. Staring hard, I could just barely make out the incredibly faint, rhythmic rising and falling of its little body. Oh, thank God. It's still alive. I breathed a heavy sigh of relief, but I definitely didn't let my guard down yet. Bizarre things happen all the time in this crazy city. What if this whole thing is some kind of weird trap? What if it suddenly leaps up and totally bites my face off the second I get too close? I nervously glanced left and right, but the dingy hallway was completely dead and empty. The only thing I could hear was the terrifying howling sound of the wind and snow raging outside. "Hey there," I called out super tentatively. Absolutely zero response. I stomped my foot on the ground again, but the stupid voice-activated hallway light just completely went out. The exact second pitch darkness fell over us. A sudden, terrifying chill raced right down my spine. I panicked and quickly cleared my throat as loud as I could. Thank God, the light flickered right back on. The weird white mass was still curled up there in total silence. Only now, I noticed that on its back, right near its hind leg, the fur color looked slightly darker in one specific spot. A thick, dark red patch of blood had coagulated, painfully matting the gorgeous, long white fur completely together. It was an incredibly jarring and graphic sight. The poor thing was badly injured. The heavy guard I had put up instantly melted away the second I saw all that blood. Look, at the end of the day, I'm really just your average, exhausted corporate drone. I've got a decent heart, even though I usually avoid getting dragged into unnecessary trouble like the plague. But out here in this absolute freezing nightmare weather, just leaving a badly injured, totally unidentifiable living creature locked out to die in the cold felt like a massive, crushing weight on my conscience. Just my damn luck. I heavily sighed. I ducked back inside the apartment to grab my broom, using the bristlehead to cautiously poke the white mass from a safe distance. Hey buddy, you gotta wake up. You seriously can't sleep right in front of my door. The texture of its fur was unbelievably, luxuriously soft. It finally stirred just a little bit, letting out an incredibly faint, heartbreaking whimper. The pathetic sound was exactly like a tiny kitten's meow, so soft and ridiculously delicate, deeply tinged with a sharp, undeniable hint of raw pain. Well, now I absolutely couldn't bring myself to act like a heartless jerk anymore. Tossing the plastic broom aside, I squatted down on the cold floor and cautiously reached my hand out to touch it. The sudden sensation against my bare fingertips was a mix of warm, incredibly soft fur and a wet, sticky, metallic-smelling patch of blood. It really was bleeding. Frowning in deep concern, I carefully scooped the entire furry thing right up into my arms. Shockingly, it was so much lighter than I had initially expected. Its actual skeletal frame felt incredibly tiny and fragile, but its crazy fur was just so thick and fluffy that it created an illusion of being quite huge. It was unbelievably docile, resting in my arms, even instinctively snuggling itself much closer toward the radiating warmth of my chest. Its poor, blood-stained head gently rubbed right up against my clean pajamas. "Come on, I literally just changed into these," I grumbled in annoyance. Still, I carefully carried the little furball inside my cozy apartment, using my back foot to firmly kick the front door shut against the storm. The heavenly warmth of the living room instantly enveloped the both of us like a giant hug. I gently placed the creature down on the floor and flicked on the bright main overhead light to see what I was dealing with. The harsh light flickered on, and I finally got a clear look at the creature sprawled on my floor. My blood absolutely ran cold. This is a fox, right? It had the pointy snout, the perked-up ears, and a tail so ridiculously fluffy it looked like an oversized winter scarf. I mean, I've never actually seen a real-life fox up close, but I've binge-watched enough nature docs to know one when I see it. And this was unmistakably an Arctic fox. Its fur was pure, snow-white, without a single speck of dirt or stray color. Except for that nasty gash near its hind leg, it was still oozing fresh blood, staining that pristine white fur a horrifying deep crimson. The cut wasn't fatally deep, but it looked painful as hell. Seriously, an injured white fox showing up right at my front door on the 16th floor? No matter how I tried to wrap my head around it, this was totally insane. Forget finding a wild fox in a concrete jungle like ours. Even if you wanted to hit up the nearest safari park, you'd have to suffer through a 2-hour bus ride. So where on earth did this little guy come from? Did it pull off a grand escape from some circus? I just stood there staring at the unconscious furball on the floor, my brain completely short-circuiting. Its breathing was incredibly shallow, and its eyes were squeezed tightly shut. Those long white eyelashes drooped, making the poor thing look utterly heartbreaking. Whatever, I had to patch it up first. I ransacked my apartment for the first aid kit, grabbing some rubbing alcohol, cotton swabs, and a roll of gauze. The poor guy flinched hard from the sting when I cleaned the gash, but it never actually woke up. Up close, the wound looked like it had been sliced open by something razor-sharp. Thank God it missed the major arteries. Fumbling around, I managed to disinfect and wrap the leg, finishing it off with an ugly, lopsided knot. By the time I was done playing nurse, I was completely drenched in sweat. Looking down at the little white fox taking up a tiny patch of my living room floor, I started stressing out over where it should sleep. I couldn't just leave it freezing on the hard tiles all night. After digging around, I finally found a beat-up cardboard box, lined the bottom with a bunch of old t-shirts I didn't wear anymore, and whipped up a cozy makeshift bed. Gently, I scooped it up and set it inside. It immediately looked way more comfortable, nuzzling its little head deep into the soft fabric. While my unexpected guest continued to sleep off the trauma, I boiled up some late-night dumplings and sat alone at the dining table. But honestly, my eyes just kept drifting back to that cardboard box in the corner of the room. This whole situation felt like an absolute fever dream. A raging blizzard, a magically injured white fox, and a random, fateful encounter on the 16th floor. I violently shook my head, trying to knock those crazy folklore legends right out of my brain. Mystical fox spirits turning into humans to repay life debts? Yeah, right. That's just cheap superstition. We live in the modern world. Animals don't just magically evolve into spirits anymore. It had to be some crazy rich guy's exotic pet that somehow managed to slip out. Yeah, that definitely has to be it. No other logical explanation. By the time I polished off my dumplings and washed the dishes, there wasn't a single peep from the cardboard box. I carefully tiptoed over and peeked inside. It was dead to the world. And thankfully, that ugly bandaged wound had stopped bleeding. Okay, cool. We're in the clear for tonight. I'll cross that bridge when the furball wakes up tomorrow morning. I hopped in the shower, dragged myself back to the bedroom, killed the lights, and hit the sack. Outside my window, the howling wind and raging snow finally started to quiet down. But lying there in bed, I just tossed and turned, completely wired and unable to sleep. The image of that pristine white fox kept flashing behind my eyelids, especially those tightly squeezed, painful eyes. What kind of gaze was hiding behind them? I honestly have no idea how long I laid there before sheer exhaustion finally dragged me under. The next morning, the glaring brightness of the room yanked me out of my sleep. The blizzard had passed, leaving behind a perfectly clear sky. Warm, golden rays pierced through the gap in the curtains, blasting me straight in the face. I aggressively rubbed my eyes, sat up, and just completely zoned out for a second. Then, like a ton of bricks, the wild memories of last night came rushing back. Oh my God, the fox. I ripped the heavy blankets off and leaped out of bed, sprinting into the hallway before I could even get my slippers on straight. The living room was totally drenched in morning light, and the cardboard box was sitting right where I left it, perfectly still in the corner. I immediately slowed my pace, creeping over like a ninja to peek inside. But the box was empty. My old t-shirts were just shoved into a messy heap, decorated with a few terrifying spots of dried blood. My heart totally skipped a beat. Where the hell did it go? Hey, Snowy, Mr. White Fox. I urgently stage-whispered the goofy temporary names I'd given it, frantically scanning every inch of the living room. Where are you? Absolutely nowhere to be found. Not under the couch, not hiding beneath the dining table. The balcony door was still locked tight. The thing couldn't have just magically vanished into thin air, right? Was last night actually some bizarre fever dream? Just as I was standing there aggressively scratching my head, I caught a super faint noise drifting from the kitchen. Clink. Clatter. It sounded exactly like someone digging through my dishes. My heart instantly leaped straight into my throat. Oh, great. A burglar. I panicked and grabbed my aluminum baseball bat from the corner, a totally useless decoration I'd bought for self-defense and literally never swung, and cautiously tiptoed toward the kitchen. The kitchen door was cracked just an inch. Sucking in a massive, shaky breath, I kicked the door wide open and hoisted the bat up high. Who the hell is in here? I screamed. And then, I completely froze. A freezing morning breeze ripped through my open kitchen window, carrying the crisp bite of fresh snow. But honestly, the cold was the absolute last thing on my mind right now. The real issue was the person standing at my sink. It wasn't some random burglar breaking in. No, it was a woman. A woman so breathtaking I couldn't even form a coherent thought. She stood with her back to me, casually wearing my stained gray hoodie from last night, the exact same one I had tossed onto a chair because it was covered in blood. The oversized fabric completely swallowed her tiny frame, the bottom hem barely hanging low enough to cover her upper thighs. From the looks of it, she had absolutely nothing on underneath. Just two radiant porcelain white legs standing perfectly still. And her hair? It was impossibly long. A rare, striking silvery white that cascaded all the way down to her waist like a shimmering waterfall. Caught in the morning sunlight, her skin and hair practically glowed with an otherworldly aura. Hearing my footsteps, she slowly turned around to face me. Clatter! The heavy baseball bat slipped right out of my sweaty grip and slammed into the floor. My brain completely short-circuited. In my entire life, whether in the real world or scrolling online, I had never laid eyes on a face this insanely beautiful. Her features were so flawless they didn't even look human, accented by skin that was impossibly fair and beautifully translucent. But her eyes, they were a striking, glowing amber, with narrow, vertical pupils that looked exactly like a wildcat's. Right then, those mesmerizing eyes held a sleepy, confused gaze, like she had just rolled out of bed. She just stared at me and blinked. Her long, white eyelashes fluttered gently like tiny, delicate fans. Then, she casually raised one of my favorite coffee mugs in her hand. Hot steam was still drifting up from the rim. She tilted her head slightly, speaking with a voice that was hauntingly ethereal, yet incredibly innocent. "Oh, you are awake? I boiled some hot water for us. Would you like a cup of tea?" My jaw basically unhinged, and like a total idiot, I couldn't even make a squeak. This is a hallucination. I have to still be passed out in bed, dreaming all this up. Yeah, that's it. A dream. I reached down and violently pinched my own thigh. Ow, okay, that stung like crazy. Definitely not a dream. But then, how the hell do I explain the impossible scene right in front of me? A silver-haired absolute bombshell, wearing my dirty, bloody hoodie, zero pants, casually chilling in my kitchen, and offering to brew me some morning tea? I gulped hard, my throat feeling like actual sandpaper. Who? Who are you? And how the heck did you get into my locked apartment? The gorgeous mystery girl softly set down the mug and took 2 steps toward me. Her bare feet glided across the cold tiles without making a single sound, and as she closed the distance, a faint, utterly intoxicating, and indescribably crisp fragrance gently washed over me, completely freezing me in my tracks. She stopped dead in her tracks right in front of me, staring up into my panicked eyes. Then, the most stunning smile spread across her flawless face. The corners of her lips curved upward, and her golden eyes crinkled into 2 beautiful crescent moons. She looked dangerously alluring, yet completely pure. Those 2 wildly contrasting vibes somehow blended together perfectly, without a single trace of awkwardness to ruin the moment. "Do you not remember me, my dear savior?" Her voice was velvety, soft, and gentle, teasing my ears with a subtle, playful coyness. "During that brutal snowstorm last night, I collapsed right outside your door, severely injured. You are the kind soul who saved my life and carried me inside." Savior? What kind of outdated, ancient way of speaking is that? My brain spun into total overdrive. Wait, hold on just a second. Are you telling me you are the injured fox from last night? I wildly pointed over at the empty, blood-stained cardboard box sitting in the corner of my living room, my outstretched finger trembling uncontrollably. The breathtaking beauty nodded her head vigorously, her glowing smile growing even sweeter with a hint of undeniable pride. "Yes, that is exactly right. My name is Bianca. I am a magical white fox spirit who has cultivated my powers for over 500 years. Thank you so much for saving my life, my gracious host." As she spoke those words, she literally stepped back and gave me a flawlessly formal, old-school curtsy. Her graceful movements were slightly stiff, but because she was so insanely gorgeous, every little thing she did was a total feast for the eyes. Still, I was in zero mood to admire her beauty right now. This was a massive, system-crashing information overload. My mental CPU was literally seconds away from bursting into flames. A wild fox transforming into a stunning human girl? 500 years of magical cultivation? Me? Supposedly saving her life? I could barely grasp those crazy concepts on their own, but slamming them all together felt like dropping a massive nuclear bomb straight into my fragile brain. I collapsed heavily against the kitchen doorframe, my knees turning completely to jelly. No way. Animals turning into magical spirits isn't a thing in the modern world. This completely violates every law of science. I babbled like an absolute madman. The stunning fox spirit, who just called herself Bianca, leaned in close and innocently blinked those mesmerizing, slit-pupil amber eyes at me. "But, my savior, I became a spirit long before your modern era even existed. I first awakened my spiritual consciousness way back in the year 1725. Wait, what historical era was 1725 again? No, damn it, focus. That is completely beside the point. I could literally feel my entire scientific worldview violently shattering into a million jagged little pieces. Why? How? You are seriously a fox? I still couldn't bring my stubborn brain to believe a single word of this fantasy nonsense. Bianca instantly looked incredibly hurt, her cute, pouty lips turning down into a sad little frown. "Do you truly not believe me, sir? Then I suppose I have no choice but to transform back right now to prove it." As the words left her mouth, a blinding, magical white glow started erupting from her slender body. "Whoa, wait, hold up, stop," I practically screamed, waving my hands frantically. "You have got to be kidding me with this. If she actually shapeshifted back into a wild animal right here in my tiny kitchen, my weak little heart would absolutely explode on the spot. I believe you, okay? Just please calm down and power down the light show." Instantly, the radiant glow around Bianca vanished into thin air, and she bounced right back to her blinding, triumphant smile. "You are so sweet, sir." I took a massive, shaky breath, desperately trying to keep my cool. Miss Bianca, could you please throw some pants on first?" With her bare legs flashing right in front of me, I honestly had no clue where to look. I mean, sure, they were incredible legs, but whoa, snap out of it, man. What on earth am I even thinking? Bianca just glanced down at herself, totally unfazed. "I do not have any pants. Your clothes are super baggy and incredibly comfy." "Fine," I groaned, rubbing my throbbing temples. "Just wait right here." I spun around and bolted back to the bedroom, frantically digging through my closet and drawers until I found a pair of sweatpants I had never even worn. They were totally brand new, tags still attached. I tossed them over to her so she could cover up. Bianca grabbed the sweatpants, flipping them over and over like an alien artifact, before shooting me the most innocent look. "Sir, how do I put these on?" I was absolutely speechless. With zero other options, I awkwardly pantomimed the motion. "Just put your legs through and pull them up to your waist." She nodded along, looking like she kind of understood but was still totally lost. Then, right in the middle of the room, she yanked up one leg to shove it into the sweatpants, lifting the hem of her hoodie in the process. As she moved, a massive corner of it completely flipped up. Panic set in, and I instantly whipped around to face the wall. The awkward rustling of her getting dressed echoed right behind me. I literally pressed my forehead against the freezing drywall, feeling 100% hopeless. Seriously, what the heck is happening to my life right now? After waiting what felt like an absolute eternity for her to finish, even though they were completely crooked and she yanked the waistband all the way up to her chest, I finally gathered the courage to turn around. "Sir, I am all dressed." She spun around proudly like a little show-off, the baggy pant legs flaring out like a giant skirt. "Uh-huh," I nodded, just trying to move past it. Now the two of us were standing awkwardly in the kitchen, just staring blankly at each other. For a solid minute, the tension was unbearably thick. I desperately needed to sort out the absolute chaos in my head. Okay, fact 1. I am just a totally average 25-year-old corporate drone who rescued a bleeding white fox in the dead of night. Fact 2. I woke up to find that exact same fox transformed into a stunning silver-haired beauty, claiming her name is Bianca and she is a magical fox spirit with 500 years of cultivation. And finally, fact 3. She is currently swimming in my oversized clothes, chilling in my kitchen, and actively trying to brew me tea. If this wild plot dropped in a manga, it would definitely be premium, paywalled content. So, what is my next move here? Call the cops? What would I even tell the dispatcher? "Hey, 911? There is a mythical fox spirit in my apartment." Yeah, a literal anime fox girl. They would lock me up in a psych ward for sure. So, do I kick her out? Looking at her hopelessly innocent puppy dog eyes, if I tossed her out while she was still injured, would she get snatched by some sketchy mobsters? Or worse, dissected in some shady underground research lab? That just felt way too inhumane, or, I guess, in Fox, Maine. But keep her here? You have got to be kidding me. I am a single dude living alone, secretly harboring a drop-dead gorgeous fox spirit in my bachelor pad. How does that make any sense? Besides, who knows if these mystical beings have messed up daily habits? Like, what if she decides to suck away my literal life force in the middle of the night? My brain was spiraling into a total meltdown. "Sir, you seem deeply troubled," Bianca whispered, stepping a little closer and eyeing me with genuine concern. That crisp floral scent of hers suddenly hit me like a truck. "Please, stop calling me sir. It feels super weird," I said, waving my hands frantically. "My name is Ethan. Ethan Lynn." "Ethan," she murmured softly, a brilliant smile lighting up her face. "Big brother Ethan. Can I call you Big brother Ethan?" Okay, the whole Big brother thing is honestly 1,000 times weirder, but staring into those wide, eagerly expectant eyes, the harsh rejection just completely died in my throat. "Whatever floats your boat," I muttered with a heavy sigh. "The number one priority right now is getting some actual food into your system, and then, well, we will figure the rest out later." My own stomach was practically caving in from starving, too. I yanked the fridge open, only to find half a bag of frozen dumplings, a couple of eggs, and a sad handful of wilting greens. "I will whip us up some noodles," I announced, grabbing the eggs and those tragic-looking veggies. "Yay! How wonderful!" Bianca shadowed my every step, staring at everything like a hyperactive toddler. "I will absolutely love anything you make, Big brother Ethan." I clicked on the gas stove to get the water boiling, and she hovered right beside me, completely unblinking, letting out these dramatic gasps of pure amazement. Wow! What kind of crazy sorcery is that little blue fire? It is a gas stove, Bianca. Not magic. Whoa. This metal box is so shiny. Yeah, that is literally just what stainless steel looks like. Wow, the water is bubbling. You are absolutely amazing, big brother Ethan. Does she seriously not know this stuff? Or is she just totally playing dumb? Keeping a deadpan face, I dumped the noodles into the pot. I felt less like a guy cooking a late-night snack, and way more like a high school science teacher, explaining the modern world to a caveman who just time-traveled to the present. Once the hot noodles were finally ready to serve, my stomach was growling, so I quickly tossed 2 poached eggs and some blanched greens into a pot, splitting the steaming meal into 2 bowls. Then, I carried our dinner straight over to the dining table. Bianca tried to mirror my movements and picked up her chopsticks, but she held them so awkwardly that after struggling for ages, she couldn't even grab a single noodle. She started getting a little anxious, her lips poking out in a cute, frustrated pout. Totally resigned to my fate, I just reached over and took her bowl and chopsticks. Hey, just watch how I hold them, I told her, patiently demonstrating the proper way to grip the chopsticks. She gave it a few more tries, but she was still completely clumsy. Finally, she looked up at me with these big, pitiful eyes. Big brother Ethan, can I just use this instead? She pointed hopefully at the metal spoon resting right next to her. Chuckling inwardly, I just handed the spoon over to her. She instantly cheered up, happily using the spoon to scoop up the hot noodles and slurping them all down super loudly. She had absolutely zero table manners, but watching her eat felt strangely adorable for some weird reason. Shaking it off, I quickly lowered my head to focus strictly on my own bowl of noodles. I definitely couldn't let myself get fooled by her innocent looks. This girl was a magical fox spirit, after all. Once we finished eating, I got up and cleared the empty dishes. Of course, she followed me right back into the kitchen, watching me wash up. Big brother Ethan, let me help you with that. She eagerly reached her hand right out toward the soapy sink. Whoa, hold on, you still have a nasty injury. I quickly grabbed her arm to stop her. Now that she was chilling in her human form, the nasty wound from her hind leg was located right on the back of her thigh, with the wrapped medical gauze still totally visible. Oh, right, she murmured. She pulled her hand back and gently touched her wound, her bright eyes dimming slightly with sadness. If I hadn't gotten so badly injured, I never would have been forced back into my true form and collapsed right at your doorstep, big brother Ethan. So, what exactly happened to you? Who actually hurt you? I asked her as casually as I could. Bianca's expression suddenly turned fierce and angry, mixed with a lingering trace of genuine fear. It was a wicked rat. A rat? Yeah, a rat that became a spirit. A rat immortal, she cried out, gesturing wildly in the air. He's so incredibly evil. He tried to violently steal my territory and all my precious snacks. We got into a huge fight, but I just couldn't beat him. I barely escaped with my terrible injuries and ran all the way to this neighborhood until I completely ran out of strength. A rat immortal? A rat spirit? Oh, great. This whole hidden ecosystem of magical spirits sure is wildly diverse. So, what exactly do you plan to do now that your wound is treated? Are you going to go back and get your bloody revenge? I asked tentatively. Bianca shook her head, her bright eyes suddenly turning all watery as she looked up at me. Big brother Ethan, my bad injury isn't fully healed yet. Plus, my magical spiritual energy is almost completely drained dry. That wicked rat spirit might still be out there ruthlessly hunting for me. So, can I please stay here with you for just a little while? As she spoke those words, she reached her hand out, gently tugging at my sleeve and giving it a soft shake. I promise I'll be really, really good. I can do all your chores for you to properly repay you for saving my life. Oh man, here it comes. Here it totally comes. The classic anime cliché is finally here. My scalp literally tingled with dread. No way, absolutely not, I declared, waving my hands frantically in the air. My place is way too tiny for 2 people. There's only 1 bedroom here. It's just not convenient at all. I can easily sleep on the couch. Bianca immediately pointed over to the narrow little couch sitting in the living room. The couch won't work either. Grown men and women definitely shouldn't live together like this. But suddenly, her eyes rimmed with red, and within those massive amber eyes, a shiny layer of heavy tears pooled up instantly. Does big brother Ethan look down on me just because I'm a monster spirit? No, I'm not looking down on you. It's simply a matter of core principle. I desperately tried to reason with her. Look, we live in a modern society strictly governed by law now. You're a random girl with absolutely no official identity staying in the apartment of a single young man. Does that make any sense to you? The nosy neighbors will definitely talk. Bianca just blinked her moist, teary eyes, looking utterly earnest. We can just tell everyone I'm your distant cousin, big brother Ethan. A cousin excuse definitely won't work either. The official household registers won't match up at all. A pet then, her eyes instantly lit up. I saw so many people downstairs happily walking their dogs and cats. You can just take me out for a walk, big brother Ethan. Oh my God, I nearly spat out a massive mouthful of blood right there. Walk a literal fox? She really has one hell of a wild imagination. Absolutely, definitely not. I flatly refused her again. In our modern society and core civic values, there is absolutely no legal clause about walking humanoid foxes. Bianca was completely stunned by my rapid barrage of civic buzzwords. She just froze there for a few seconds. Then, she slowly lowered her head and whispered, "Oh, I understand." Her soft voice carried a deep, crushing sense of disappointment and heavy grievance. She sadly let go of my sleeve, silently turned around, and slowly walked all the way toward the dark corner of the living room. She quietly sat on the hard floor, hugging her knees, completely burying her face in her knees. Her long, gorgeous, silvery white hair cascaded down, completely hiding her figure, leaving behind only an incredibly weak, pitiful, and totally helpless back, just like a terribly abandoned little animal on the street. Seriously, who the hell could possibly resist that? A fierce, chaotic battle raged inside my mind. Pure reason told me to get rid of this dangerous hot potato immediately. The further away she was, the better my life would be. But just looking at her shivering like that, my damn sympathy began to well up all over again. Not to even mention, she was still pretty badly injured. There might actually even be a wicked rat spirit actively hunting her down out there in the dark. What was the actual difference between blindly throwing her out and cold-blooded murder? I scratched my head in utter frustration. In the end, my reason totally lost the battle. Well, honestly, I didn't even know what it actually lost to. Maybe it was her undeniable beauty, or maybe it was just that ridiculous, soft-hearted kindness of mine. I stepped up behind her, clearing my throat awkwardly. Living with a mythical being wasn't exactly in my survival guide, but here we were. Look, the couch isn't completely impossible to sleep on. The pathetic little lump on the floor shifted. A messy mop of silver hair peeked up just a fraction, flashing a single, watery amber eye at me. She stared up at me like a kicked puppy. "You really mean it, Ethan?" she whimpered, her voice cracking. My alarms went off, but I braced myself for the chaos. "But we are setting some ground rules," I warned. In a flash, the crying act vanished. She spun around, kneeling perfectly on the floor, with her eyes literally sparkling with joy. "So much for the heartbreak. Tell me everything, Ethan. I swear I'll do whatever you say." I couldn't shake the feeling I was walking straight into a trap, but I kept my game face on and held up one firm finger. Rule number 1. You do not step foot in my bedroom without my absolute permission. Got it? Rule number 2. Your whole fox spirit identity is a dead secret. And rule number 3. You are absolutely forbidden from using any of those freaky mind control seduction spells on me. Bianca just tilted her head, looking genuinely clueless. Seduction spells? What on earth is that? You know, the magic stuff that turns guys into your brainless puppets, I stammered, feeling my face burn beet red. It took a second to click. When it did, she absolutely lost it, busting into a fit of giggles. Her eyes crinkled up with sheer amusement. You watch way too many movies. Ethan, when we fox spirits train, we actually pull our power directly from the sun, the moon, and the raw energy of the earth itself. The cosmic laws banned that shady seduction stuff centuries ago. Besides, her cheeks turned pink as she mumbled, "I've never even held hands with a guy before. I wouldn't even know how to start." I coughed to hide my embarrassment. "Right, well, those are the 3 rules. Are we clear?" "Crystal clear." Bianca nodded so hard her hair bounced, flashing a million-watt smile. "Thank you for saving my life and taking me in, Ethan." She practically launched herself off the floor, diving in for a massive hug. My reflexes kicked in, and I leaped back 2 feet to dodge the incoming fluff ball. She hit the brakes, pouting like a kid who just dropped her ice cream. Still, she straightened up and respected the boundary. Oh, my bad. Watching her eyes well up with tears again almost broke my defenses. I sighed, adding, "Just remember, the second you're fully healed, You hit the road. Bianca stayed totally silent. She just locked those massive, unblinking eyes on me until all the hairs on my arms stood up. And just like that, my crazy new reality of hiding a magical fugitive officially began. Mission 1 was fixing the sleeping arrangements, since my beat-up couch was way too cramped. I could barely fit on that thing without my legs dangling over the edge, let alone host a girl on it. Swallowing my pride, I raided my junk closet and yanked out a rusty, dusty old folding cot, dragging it over to carve out a tiny safe haven for her right by the living room window. After throwing down a fresh mattress pad and my spare blanket, I dusted off my hands. You crash here for now. Bianca looked at it like it was a 5-star hotel, excitedly poking the cushions and bouncing on the edge. This is amazing. It's practically a cloud compared to the freezing rock I sleep on back at my cave. Wait, a cave? A rock bed? Honestly, that checked out for a literal forest spirit. Where exactly is this fancy cave of yours? I asked, trying to sound casual. Deep in the woods at Sunset Mountain. Bianca crossed her legs on the cot, rocking happily back and forth. But honestly, I haven't been home in forever. Knowing my luck, that nasty rat demon probably stole my territory by now. Sunset Mountain was a massive, untamed nature reserve just outside the city limits. It was notoriously rugged, practically crawling with wild beasts. Go figure. Mythical creatures had the exact same taste in real estate as regular wild animals. Look, don't worry about turf wars right now. Just focus on recovering from your injuries, I told her firmly. We'll cross the bridge of taking back your home once you're back at full strength. Okay, she nodded super fast, shooting me a disgustingly sweet smile. You really are the best, Ethan. I quickly looked away. That level of cute was basically a lethal weapon. Anyway, phase 2. Her wardrobe. She couldn't exactly wander around my apartment drowning in my oversized shirts forever. I pulled up my banking app and instantly wanted to cry. Payday wasn't until next week, and I was broke enough to start charging the roaches rent. Digging through the bottom of my drawers, I salvaged some shrunken old tees and a pair of worn-out sweatpants. You'll have to rough it in these for now. I tossed them over. I'll figure out how to score you some real clothes in a couple of days. Bianca couldn't have cared less about the fashion disaster, hugging the faded laundry to her chest like it was designer gear. Yay! They smell exactly like you, Ethan. So warm and cozy. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Please, for the love of God, don't say things out loud that sound that creepy. Once we finally had our little base camp established, I checked my watch. It was just rolling past 10 in the morning. Since it was Saturday, I was off the clock, but I urgently needed to hit the streets for a massive grocery run. I was officially providing for 2 now, and considering this girl was a literal bottomless pit, she had already demolished my entire noodle stash for breakfast. All right, I'm heading out to hunt for some actual food. You stay glued to this spot and behave. No exploring the building, and absolutely do not open that door for anybody. Understand? I lectured, feeling like a stressed-out single dad. I'm on it, boss. Bianca chirped from her cot, her messy silver hair bouncing happily as she saluted me. I will watch the house. Seeing her act so obediently finally put my racing mind at ease. I grabbed my keys and phone, ready to make my escape. But the second my hand brushed the cold doorknob, her soft voice called out from behind me. Big brother Ethan? Yeah? I turned back around. She had quietly slipped out of bed, standing right in the middle of my cramped living room. The morning sunlight streamed through the window, bathing her in a warm glow that made her silver hair look absolutely ethereal. A faint, bashful blush dusted her cheeks. Her hands were shyly clasped behind her back, her toes nervously tapping against the floorboards. Come back early. Her voice was so sweet and gentle. My heart literally skipped a beat. I quickly snapped my head away, mumbling a frantic, "Oh, okay." Then, I practically bolted out the front door, like my life depended on it. The absolute second that door clicked shut, I slumped against the cold metal and let out a massive sigh of relief. I grabbed my chest. My heart was hammering like a drum. Damn it all. Even without using a single ounce of magic, this fox girl's charm was lethally overpowered. Later, inside the supermarket, I pushed my squeaky cart down the aisles, my mind completely drifting into space. I could not stop thinking about Bianca's glowing amber eyes and that sweet plea, "Come back early." Did I just invite a dangerous wolf into my home? No. Worse. I invited a fox. Shaking my head vigorously, I forced myself to snap out of it and ditch those crazy thoughts. I aggressively tossed a mountain of instant noodles into the cart, along with eggs, frozen meals, and a ton of random snacks. I had zero clue what a fox spirit actually ate, but buying a little bit of everything seemed like a safe bet. But when it was time to check out, staring at the total flashing on the register screen made my wallet bleed and my soul shatter. Great. Looks like I will be surviving on instant ramen and tap water for the rest of the month. Lugging 2 massive bags of groceries back to my front door, anxiety started creeping in. Had that fox actually behaved herself, or did she completely trash my tiny apartment? I took a deep breath, braced myself for chaos, and turned the key. I'm home. The very second the words left my mouth, a flash of white zoomed straight to the doorway. Big brother Ethan, you are back. A bright, dazzling smile beamed across Bianca's face. She eagerly reached out to grab the heavy grocery bags. Let me carry those. No, no need. They are way too heavy. I quickly sidestepped to dodge her. Your injury has not fully healed yet, so do not push yourself. She let out a disappointed, oh, but still trailed right on my heels, looking exactly like a hungry little puppy begging for a treat. I hauled the bags into the kitchen and started sorting the haul. She hovered right beside me, watching my every move with intense focus, especially when she spotted the junk food. Her amber eyes instantly lit up like sparklers. Big brother Ethan, what are all these colorful things? Snacks? Are they delicious? She gulped loudly. Chuckling, I grabbed a shiny bag of potato chips, ripped it wide open, and offered her a piece to try. She cautiously pinched a single chip and popped it into her mouth. Crunch! Her eyes shot wide open in pure amazement. So good. Suddenly, it was a rapid-fire assault. Crunch! 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 She was stuffing her face like a starving little hamster, her cheeks puffing out adorably. I could not help but laugh. Whoa, eat slower. Nobody is going to steal them from you. Once the groceries were finally put away, I checked the clock. Time to start cooking. Let's do a simple stir-fry for lunch today. I grabbed the fresh green bell peppers and pork I had just bought. I will help you wash the veggies, big brother Ethan. Bianca volunteered with endless enthusiasm. This time, I did not try to stop her. Instead, I stood beside her, gently showing her exactly how to rinse the bell peppers. She took the task super seriously. Her slender, pale fingers danced under the running tap water as she meticulously scrubbed every inch of the green peppers. Bathed in the warm kitchen light, her side profile looked unbelievably soft and peaceful. Honestly, this whole scene felt incredibly heartwarming. Nope. I immediately crushed that dangerous, fluffy thought. Later, while we were eating, she practically worshipped my shredded pork stir-fry. Armed with just that one simple dish, she absolutely demolished 2 massive bowls of steamed rice. The second we finished, she jumped up and insisted on washing the dirty dishes all by herself. Seeing as the injury on her leg was not really slowing her down, I decided to let her take over. I flopped onto the couch and scrolled through the news on my phone, desperately trying to distract myself. But it was useless. My eyes kept drifting right back to the kitchen. She looked so cute and clumsy wearing my oversized apron, scrubbing those plates with pure dedication. The splashing tap water misted her face, dampening a few rogue strands of silver hair resting on her forehead. Deep down in my chest, I felt a strange, gentle tug on my heartstrings. No, Ethan Lynn, snap out of it right now. She is a spirit. She is not human. She definitely has some dark, ulterior motives. Humans and spirits belong to completely different worlds. Got it? Smack. I slapped my own cheeks hard to wake myself up. Big brother Ethan, what is wrong? Bianca stepped out of the kitchen holding a stack of clean bowls, tilting her head in pure confusion at my weird behavior. Oh, it is nothing. My face just felt a little stiff. I blurted out the dumbest excuse imaginable. Oh, she neatly stacked the bowls in the cabinet, dried her delicate hands, and slowly walked over to me. Big brother Ethan, let me massage your tired shoulders. Ah, no need, no need. Seriously, I am totally fine. You have to let me. I need to properly repay your kindness. Before I could even protest, she slipped right behind me, her small hands gently resting on my tense shoulders. My entire body went rigid. Her hands were incredibly soft, carrying a soothing, faint chill as she began to knead my muscles with absolute, perfect pressure. I had to admit, it felt absolutely incredible. The heavy tension in my shoulders finally melted away. Does that feel good, Ethan? Her sultry voice drifted from right above my head, her warm breath teasing the tips of my hair. It tickled. Yeah, it's fine. Then I'll massage you every single day from now on. Whoa, that's really not necessary. She kneaded my muscles for a bit, but just as I was actually starting to relax, her hands suddenly stopped. Instead, I felt her slender fingers gently trail across the back of my neck. It felt like an accidental touch, leaving a faint, tingling itch in its wake. A massive shiver jolted through my entire body, and I practically vaulted off the couch. "What are you doing?" I snapped, whipping my head around to glare at her. Bianca just stood there, blinking her big, innocent eyes at me like she hadn't done a thing. "There was a strand of hair on your neck, Ethan. I was just brushing it off." She opened her delicate palm, and sure enough, a short piece of my hair rested there. "Oh, thanks." I rubbed the back of my neck, feeling incredibly awkward for overreacting. "You don't ever have to be so polite with me, Ethan." She flashed a radiant smile, leaning in dangerously close, until she was practically whispering right into my ear with a breathy, sultry voice. "You saved my life, my entire being, my whole fox body. It all belongs to you now." Her warm breath fanned against my skin, and my ears immediately flushed beet red. My heart started hammering in my chest like a jackhammer. Damn it, this sly fox is absolutely trying to seduce me. After that day, my life turned upside down. My alarm clock was replaced by weird rustling noises and the intense, creepy sensation of being watched. The second I'd crack my eyes open, I'd find a silver-haired girl leaning over the edge of my bed, staring a hole right through me with those massive amber eyes. "Ethan, you're finally awake. The sun is already shining on your butt." She'd jump-scare me so badly my heart nearly stopped beating on a daily basis. I had told her a million times under absolutely no circumstances was she allowed in my bedroom. Well, she technically remembered the rule. So instead of stepping inside, she'd just cling to the doorframe and stare at me relentlessly, looking straight out of a horror movie. Mealtimes weren't any better. Whenever we ate, she would devour her food with crazy enthusiasm. No matter how basic or burned my cooking was, she'd hype it up like some five-star gourmet delicacy. She had this insane attachment to me. Wherever I went, my little shadow followed. If I watched TV, she was glued to my side on the couch. Even though she had zero clue what was happening on the screen, she'd stare at it with total fascination. When I tried to scroll on my phone, she'd just drape her head over my shoulder, bombarding me with curious questions. "Ethan, why are there tiny people trapped inside this box?" "It's a video, Bianca." "What are they doing?" "They're just singing and dancing." "Oh. Well, they aren't nearly as handsome as you, Ethan," but it didn't stop there. Even when I went to the bathroom, she'd trail right behind me to the door. "Ethan, are you going to be in there for a long time? Can you seriously learn the concept of personal space?" I finally yelled, completely losing whatever shred of patience I had left. Instantly, her bottom lip would quiver, her eyes welling up with tears. I was just worried about you." And just like that, I was instantly defeated. But the absolute worst part was the pathetic soundproofing in my cheap apartment at night. Every tiny shuffle in the living room echoed into my bedroom. I could hear everything when she took a shower, the rushing water, mixed perfectly with her happily out-of-tune humming. Lying in bed, I forcefully clamped a pillow over my ears, chanting to myself like a madman, "Hear no evil, hear no evil." After her shower, she'd strut around the living room wearing my massively oversized t-shirt as pajamas, pacing back and forth. The non-stop slapping of her slippers on the floorboard was agonizingly loud, and sometimes she'd just come right up and knock on my door. "Ethan, are you asleep?" "I am asleep," I'd snap back angrily. "Oh, well, good night then." Her voice sounded completely crushed. "Give it 20 minutes and then—" "Ethan, I'm a little cold out here. The remote is on the table. Fix the AC yourself." "Oh," and 10 minutes later, "Ethan, my wound is stinging a bit." I let out a massive sigh, totally resigned to my fate, and dragged myself out of bed to open the door. I found her huddled up on the folding cot, clutching her knees to her chest. Her eyes were completely bloodshot, looking like a pathetic, miserable little puppy. I checked her bandages, but her injury was actually healing incredibly fast, already fully scabbed over. "You're fine," I grumbled. "It's basically healed. Just stop getting water on it." Still, I carefully changed out her gauze. She stayed dead silent the entire time, patiently waiting until I finished before softly whispering, "Thank you. Now go back to sleep, Ethan." As I stood up, walked back to my room, and slowly closed the door, I caught her still sitting perfectly still on the cot. She was watching me intently with those giant, sad, puppy dog eyes, literally looking like a lost dog that just got locked outside by its owner. A pang of guilt hit my chest, but logic screamed that I had to maintain my boundaries. 3 or 4 days flew by, and her injuries vanished at an impossible speed, leaving absolutely zero trace behind. My mental state, however, was in rapid decline. The massive dark bags under my eyes were dragging halfway down to my chin. My coworkers kept joking that I was out robbing banks at night. I could only flash a bitter, exhausted smile. Trust me, the reality was a million times more intense than playing a common thief. That night, sleep was a total nightmare, just a tangled mess of bizarre, feverish dreams. In one of them, this massive, snow-white fox was relentlessly hunting me down. I tried to run, but my legs felt like dead weight. Suddenly, the beast lunged, burying me in a mountain of pure fluff. Its massive tail wrapped around me like a vice, its hot breath brushing right against my face. I snapped awake, gasping for air. My chest felt completely crushed under some invisible weight, so, still half asleep, I reached out. It was incredibly soft, radiating heat. And wait, it was moving. Boom! The sleep completely evaporated, replaced by a freezing sweat. I forced my eyes open, and in the pale moonlight spilling through the blinds, the insane reality hit me. A gigantic, snow-white foxtail was draped right across my chest. The tip just kept flicking against my chin, teasing me over and over. And the culprit? Bianca. She had somehow snuck under my blankets and was curled up on her side, completely dead to the world. Her stunning silver hair was scattered all across my pillow. She had one hand glued to my waist, while her leg violently pinned mine down like a wrestling move. But here was the real kicker. She was literally only wearing my oversized t-shirt. Thanks to her wild sleeping habits, the fabric had ridden completely up to her hips, flashing way too much porcelain skin. The collar was totally slipping off her shoulder, too. Her delicate collarbones and soft shoulders practically glowed with this crazy silver aura in the moonlight. Her warm breath hit the crook of my neck, sending absolute electric shocks down my spine. My brain literally short-circuited. My blood pressure skyrocketed, pounding in my ears. "How the hell did you get in here?" I stammered, my voice totally shaking. I tried to shove her off, but the second my fingers brushed her bare skin, I yanked my hand back like I touched a live wire. The sudden movement made Bianca groan. But instead of backing off, she just snuggled impossibly closer into my chest. She rubbed her soft cheek against me, and her massive tail tightened its grip. "Ethan, you're so warm." Her sleepy voice was sweet and sugary, straight up melting my resolve. "Get up. Right now." I hissed through gritted teeth, struggling to peel her off, but she clung on like an absolute octopus. "No way. It's freezing out there." "Freezing, my foot. The AC is blasting." I was literally losing my mind. "Bianca, seriously, wake up," I yelled. She finally cracked an eye open, peering up at me through a groggy, confused haze. Those glowing amber eyes looked so foggy and innocently confused. "What's wrong, Ethan?" "What do you mean, what's wrong?" I was so stressed, my stomach tied in knots. "Why are you in my bed? What was rule number 1 of our agreement?" Bianca blinked, the reality finally hitting her. She looked at me, then at our tangled bodies, and a massive blush exploded across her face. She mumbled, looking totally mortified. I had a dream about the freezing stone bed back in my cave. It was so horribly cold. But then I caught your scent. Ethan, you felt so warm. So, I just followed it. Give me a break. You followed my scent? What are you? A dog. Oh, wait. Right. You're literally a fox. Off. Now. I pointed straight to the hardwood floor, keeping my voice brutally strict. Bianca instantly pouted, her eyes pooling with big, dramatic tears. "Ethan, you're being so mean." "Me? Mean? You sneak into my bed in the dead of night, and I'm the bad guy here? I only wanted to be a little closer to you." She sniffled, making that fluffy tail brush my chin again in this blatant attempt to butter me up. "My wounds are healing, and my spiritual energy is coming back, so my tail just has a mind of its own when I sleep." Staring at those watery puppy dog eyes and that frantically wagging tail, every ounce of my frustration just melted away. Trying to use human logic on a mythical fox spirit, God, I'm an idiot. I took a massive breath, fighting to keep my cool. "Just get off me, and go back to your own bed." She let out a tragic little whimper, slowly unwrapping her limbs and sliding off the mattress like a sad noodle. The hem of her oversized shirt rode dangerously high as she moved, flashing way too much skin in the process. I felt my face burning up and instantly stared at the ceiling, trying to block the image out. She finally hit the floor, standing barefoot while clutching her massive tail, shooting me the most pitiful look imaginable. Ethan, I'm really sorry. Yeah, well, lesson learned. Now go to sleep. I snatched the blankets back, rolling over and cocooning myself tightly facing the wall. Out of sight, out of mind. But let's be real. I am completely, undeniably screwed. That was my only thought. When my eyes fluttered open the next morning, the sun hadn't even come up yet. A dim, murky gray light crept through the window, perfectly tracing the silent, breathing silhouette right next to me. Yep, Bianca was curled up again. Her gorgeous silver hair fanned out across my pillow like silk. Her stupidly soft tail was draped right over my waist, the tip giving a happy little twitch. My entire body went stiff as a board. I held my breath, terrified to wake the absolute chaos lying next to me. Memories of last night were flashing through my mind like a chaotic highlight reel. Right after I told her to just go to sleep, she had clutched her fluffy tail, crying that it hurt. Her big eyes were absolutely swimming with tears. I leaned over to check on her, and with those huge, wet eyes, she sobbed, "Big brother Ethan, if you just hold me, the pain will go away." Seriously, how on earth did I fall for a sly fox's lies? From there, the temperature in the room just kept rising. The sensations were way too vivid. And that last thread of my rationality, yeah, it snapped with a loud pop. I didn't even dare dwell on the details. Just thinking about it made my entire face burn up. I could always just pull up my pants and play dumb, right? Claim that we're both adults and just got a little carried away in the heat of the moment. But the girl lying right next to me is, according to her, over 500 years old. Yet somehow, her mind is as pure and blank as a sheet of paper. Well, at least she seems completely innocent in certain aspects. I ran a frustrated hand through my hair, barely daring to breathe, let alone move, terrified of waking her up. She stirred, letting out a soft, sweet hum, and snuggled even closer to my side. Her soft cheek pressed right against my arm, her breath warm on my skin. Very, very carefully, I tried to lift her heavy tail off my waist, but the second my fingers brushed against that incredibly soft fur, the tail acted like it had a mind of its own, wrapping around my waist even tighter. Big brother, she mumbled in her sleep. Her eyes were still firmly shut, but a tiny, satisfied smirk tugged at the corners of her lips. She looked exactly like a little kid who had just successfully stolen a jar of candy. I instantly froze. Crushing guilt is honestly the only way to describe the pit in my stomach right now. Two tiny voices were going to war inside my head. The devil on my shoulder cheered. "Ethan Lynn, you absolute legend. You actually slept with a mythical fox spirit. This is a legendary fantasy trope. You have to write this down in the family history books." Meanwhile, the angel roared, "Fantasy, my ass. This is trouble. Monumental, life-ruining trouble. Humans and spirits belong in two entirely different worlds. Do you get it? Watch your back, or she's gonna suck you completely dry of your life force." Wait, life force? I quietly did a quick full-body scan. Aside from my lower back aching just a little bit, there didn't seem to be anything wrong with me at all. In fact, I felt ridiculously energized. Damn it. So, this fierce internal battle raged on as I debated my next move. Should I immediately jump out of bed and pretend absolutely nothing happened? Or should I just keep lying here, waiting for her to wake up to see what she'd actually say? Suddenly, Bianca's long eyelashes fluttered, and she slowly opened her eyes. Deep within those golden slit pupil eyes, there was a brief layer of groggy confusion, but the absolute second they locked onto my face, they lit up like a sky full of stars. "Big brother Ethan, you're awake." Her voice had that sweet, raspy edge of someone who had just woken up from a deep sleep. Without skipping a beat, she naturally wrapped her arms around my neck, lifting her head to plant a soft kiss right on my chin. My entire body locked up, and all the blood violently rushed to my face. "You, I stammered, my tongue tied into knots as I babbled completely incoherently. But she didn't seem to think a single thing was wrong. Instead, she just found an even more comfortable spot right in my arms, resting her cheek against my shoulder, with her fluffy tail swaying gently in pure happiness. "It's so incredibly warm next to you, big brother Ethan." I slept so well. She happily narrowed her eyes into little crescents. Bianca. I took a massive, shaky breath, knowing I had to set the record straight right now. About last night, she suddenly lifted her head, staring at me with sparkling eyes full of bashful pride. Big brother Ethan and I mated. No. I violently coughed, almost choking to death on my own spit. Could you please not use words that sound like they belong in a National Geographic documentary? It's just that. My face was burning hot enough to fry a dozen eggs. That was a complete accident. Do you understand me? We absolutely cannot do this. The bright smile on Bianca's face faded away, and she tilted her head in pure confusion. Why not? Did you not like it, big brother Ethan? It's not a question of whether I liked it or not. I was practically tearing my hair out. This is a very serious matter. We're fundamentally different. You are a magical spirit, and I am a human. Her golden eyes dimmed with sadness as she whispered, "Can't a spirit and a human fall in love? The storybooks all say they can. Those are just fairy tales. They're totally fake." I desperately tried to reason with her, even though it felt like talking to a brick wall. Real life is extremely complicated. There are rules we have to follow in this world, and you have to take responsibility. Take responsibility? Bianca's eyes instantly lit up like fireworks. Is Big Brother Ethan going to take responsibility for me? Yay, that's wonderful. No, that is not what I meant at all. I was literally on the verge of a mental breakdown. Then what do you mean, Big Brother Ethan? She pressed on, her intense gaze locked dead onto my eyes. Do you just not like me? Do you hate it when I touch you? As she spoke, the rims of her eyes began to turn a pathetic shade of red. Her fluffy tail sadly drooped against the bed, making her look like she was about to burst into tears all over again. Seeing her pull this emotional stunt yet again, my temples throbbed with a violent headache. God damn it. But watching her look so utterly heartbroken, the tiny shred of willpower I had left began to rapidly waver, especially since certain intense physical memories from last night were still so fresh in my mind. Couple that with her dangerously innocent, yet subtly seductive expression right now, I was doomed. I knew I was completely trapped. Resigned to my fate, I let out a massive sigh, one heavy enough to wrap around the earth 3 times over. I don't hate you, I muttered dryly. I kept my eyes glued to the wall, totally terrified to look at her. Oh? Then that means you actually like me. She instantly leaned in. The tip of her nose brushed against mine, her warm breath hovering dangerously close to my lips. Back off. I need a shower. I shoved her away and practically sprinted into the bathroom. I cranked the cold water to the max, letting it blast over my head to extinguish the absolute chaos raging in my chest. The guy staring back in the mirror looked like a total wreck, with massive dark circles under his eyes. His expression was completely twisted, looking exactly like a guy who had been drained dry by a demon, with zero fight left in him. I was so done for. Ethan Lynn, you have completely fallen right into this little fox's trap. Just then, a soft knock echoed from the bathroom door. Ethan? Her voice filtered through the wood. It sounded super cautious, like she was desperately trying to sweet-talk me. Are you mad? I didn't make a single sound. Please don't be mad at me, she continued, her voice going soft. From now on, I promise I won't crawl into your bed without your permission anymore, okay? Wait, why did that sound even worse? Just go put some clothes on. I shouted through the door. Outside, everything went dead silent. And just like that, my relationship with Bianca entered this bizarre new stage of living together. I say bizarre because this fox girl had apparently unlocked a brand new skill tree. It was a surgical precision strike, walking an agonizingly thin line between pure innocence and ruthless, intentional flirtation. She stopped sneaking into my bed in the middle of the night, well, at least not while I was still awake. But during the daytime, hey Ethan, how am I supposed to tie this strap? She held up her newly bought dress, batting those massive, innocent eyes at the complicated strings on the back. She backed right up into me, leaving her smooth, bare back completely exposed and utterly unguarded. Gritting my teeth, my hands literally shook as I tied the knot. I tried my absolute hardest not to graze her cool, flawless skin in the process. But when I finished and glanced up at our reflection in the mirror, I caught this totally smug, victorious smirk flashing across her face, like a literal sly little fox. Wow, Ethan, your heart is beating so crazy fast right now. She spun around, trailing a single finger lightly down the center of my chest. My skin felt like it was on fire. Keeping my face completely blank, I swatted her hand away and turned to crank open a window. Behind me, she just giggled like a maniac. And it didn't stop there. Whenever we ate, she would accidentally get sauce on the corner of her mouth. Then, maintaining dead-on eye contact with me, she'd stick out the very tip of her tongue and slowly lick it off. I buried my face in my bowl, furiously shoveling food into my mouth, and grumbled at her to eat properly. She let out this super exaggerated, heartbroken "oh," but literally 1 second later, her bare foot found its way under the table, shamelessly rubbing up and down my calf. Clack! I slammed my chopsticks down onto the table. She instantly yanked her foot back and grabbed her bowl, putting on the most flawless, "I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about" expression. God damn it. I absolutely cannot survive living like this. Logic screamed that humans and spirits belong to totally different worlds. It warned me not to fall any deeper, but my body and my heart, yeah, they definitely had minds of their own. Ethan, are you seriously annoyed with me? I think I'm just a big burden. If you know you are, then why even ask? But what if I wasn't a burden anymore? She propped herself up and leaned into my space, her nose almost brushing against mine. What if I could just stay right here, like this? I could stay by your side forever without anyone finding out, and I wouldn't cause you a single ounce of trouble. My heart gave a massive, violent thud. What are you talking about? My injuries are pretty much fully healed now, and my spiritual energy is finally stable, she whispered softly. I can look 100% human now. I can hide my tail, my ears, everything. I can learn how to do human things. I can get a job, earn my own money, and I promise I won't just be freeloading off you anymore. She paused. Her eyes were swimming with this cautious, desperate hope and a quiet, heartbreaking nervousness. I just want a place to call home. A place where you are. I stared deeply into her eyes. The light shining in them was so incredibly pure, it was impossible not to believe her. I tossed my phone onto the couch, reached out, and gently ruffled her hair. A job, huh? How about you learn how to use the washing machine without turning all my white shirts pink first? She blinked, stunned for a split second, before her eyes completely lit up like fireworks. With a squeal, she lunged forward and threw her arms tightly around my neck. Poof! Her fluffy tail suddenly burst out, wagging so hard and fast it looked like a literal helicopter propeller. You said yes, Ethan. Wait, what did I even agree to? Hey, get off me, you're heavy as hell. I don't care. You agreed. No takebacks. She clung to my chest like a stubborn koala, happily nuzzling her face deep into the crook of my neck. Her fluffy tail kept brushing against my cheek, carrying this warm, intoxicating scent of sunshine and, well, her. I let out a long, defeated sigh, but my arms moved on their own, instinctively wrapping around her waist. Whatever. If she's going to be a giant headache, then bring it on. I was the idiot who decided to be reckless on that freezing, snowy day. I brought this incredibly demanding, chaotic little spirit into my life. Besides, having her around, it really doesn't seem like a bad deal after all.